Welcome back to Swiss Army Guitar. I'm Mike Andrews. If you like the video that you see here, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe if you want more content like this. Also, in my description, you'll see some links to social media, so be sure to sign up for that if you want that as well. In this video, we're going to talk about faking classical guitar. Now, this all came about because my daughter wanted me to learn a song that I was embarrassed that I didn't know already. So I learned it for her to teach it to her. And it taught me some things about classical guitar, and it really helped me expand my ear just in the short time that I did it. And I think it'll help you too, because we're really going to focus on the most important notes in a chord, and that's what great classical composers really did. And it gives it a really cool acoustic classical guitar sound that I think you will like and will help you develop your ear. Now, if you're in a bar band, you might not use this too much. It might be a good thing to play in between sets, or to introduce, or as an intro to a song that you might play if you played in the right key. But it's also going to help you develop some finger picking technique called Travis picking, so I think you'll like it. So let's get started. Okay, the performance that I just did was in the key of G. So what I want to do real quick is just go over what chords are normally in the G major scale. Now, my channel is all about trying to use your ear and not think so much about theory. We can use theory to explain what we did so that we can remember it and use it later, and to, describe and explain what other people do to help us improve our playing. But I don't think we should totally rely on theory. Once again, if it sounds good, it is good. But generally speaking, in a G major scale, there's your G chord, then you've got an A minor, then you've got a B minor, a C, a D, an E minor, and then you've got this F sharp minor flat 5, and then back to G. Now, my daughter came to me one day this summer and said, "Dad, do you know Blackbird by the Beatles?" And I was quite ashamed that I didn't. So I spent, the next hour or two trying to figure out the best I could by ear. And while I was doing it, I started to learn some just genius things that Paul McCartney was doing in that. And it sounded so classical. And I thought, wow, I really don't know a whole lot of classical guitar pieces. This might really help me learn to play a little bit of classical. Now, of course, classical players spend years developing their technique, but this is kind of a way that I can use now to fake playing classical guitar. But a couple of things that I learned in the song is that he's really only playing the most important notes in that chord. So for instance, with a G chord right here, if you play two notes together, like the outside and the highest note, that doesn't really sound, it sounds cool, it's an octave, but it doesn't really give the flavor of that G. That could be a G minor, or it could be a G major. Now if I play the G and the open B note right here, the second string, that definitely is a G major, not a, it's happier sounding chord. If I play the G here and the open G note right here, the third string, that's pretty much the same thing I was doing here. And if I play the G and the D right here, that sounds like a power chord. It sounds like I'm... And if I play the G and the A right here, or I'm sorry, the B note, that sounds cool. That shows that it is a major chord, but those notes are so close together, it doesn't give that box sound, that classical guitar sound. But if I do like this, that sounds good. Now let me go through each of those chords doing exactly that. If I play this G chord and the open B, I get that first chord that I play in the video. When I go to A minor, I need that minor note that makes it different from an A major. So I need the A note, the second string down, and then the fifth string down with my first finger on the first fret to get that C. So then for the B minor, I'm just playing the lowest note right here, the B, and the highest note that I'm playing is that D right there. And I like to just play it like this, with my second finger on the second fret of the second string and my little finger on the third fret of the fifth string up here higher. So now I've got G, A minor, B minor, then I go up to C. And if you know your bar chords, that's the C bar chord. Just play the lowest and the highest. That's the root and the third of the chord, which is what gives it its flavor. So now I've got a major, a minor, a minor, a major. If I go up 2 frets to D, I've got another major. And by the way, if you struggle with finding notes on the guitar, I do have a video coming up that you can watch to help you with that. That'll be coming soon. It's just going to be a quick video to help people use a system that I use that was super easy to learn all the notes on the neck. But notice that this minor is only a 1 fret span, but this major is a 2 fret span. I could make that a minor by making it a 2 fret span, or just 1 fret span, excuse me. There's C minor, C major. So really, you can think of it as shapes. If you're 1 fret apart, it's a minor. If you're 2 frets apart, it's a major. So with this G, you might think, well, that one's weird because the root note's on the lowest string. But I could still do that with, putting my first finger here, going over 4 strings and up 1 fret. But that note right there is the same note as this open one. So you've got your G there or there. I like the notes ringing. I think it sounds better when it's not fretted. So I've got G. Then this one right here is that 1 fret minor, except I went down to an open string. So you've got G, A minor, B minor, C major, D major. Now I want to go to E minor. Can you guess where my little finger is going to go? Right here. And now this F sharp minor flat 5 is a minor, so you can get away with not getting, that really tricky chord shape right here. You can just play the minor shape, and then we're up 1/2 fret to a G again. So now play around with that for a little bit and get that under your belt. And you could pause the video and come back later if you want to. But those are the chords that I was using during the performance. And then I was just moving them around, go back down, change the rhythm up a little bit. Ooh, listen to that. I added a major right there because if it's good enough for Paul McCartney, it's good enough for me. That note is not in the G major scale. But then when you lower it to the minor, it sounds really cool. When you go from C major, B minor, A major, oh, that just gets the ear going. It shocks the ear for a minute, but then you're like, oh yeah, I'm still in the key of G. And then if you play this D note here with that, if you look close, you can see I'm playing the 3rd and the 5th string together. 3rd is open D, and the 5th string is on C. That's a 7th chord leading to G. That's a D7 chord. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes, because you'll notice that when I was playing in the performance, I went like this, and then I went. That sounds really cool. Now that's not a chord that's in the scale of G major, because G major is. But I just played. I added what's called a chromatic note, but it sounds cool because you want to end on this chord right here. But by adding a note right in front of it, a half step, it really adds some tension that wants to go to D. And up here, I played a note that wants to resolve back down to where it should. Now that's quite a stretch, but it sounds cool over any chord. Now if you don't like that stretch, there is something else you could do. That note right here, which is on the 8th fret of the 5th string, is actually that note right there on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. So instead of that stretch, you could move over a string and play like this. It's the same thing. So 4th fret of the 2nd string with my middle finger, and the 3rd fret of the 6th string with my 1st finger, instead of the 4th fret of the 2nd string with my 1st, and the 8th fret with my little finger on the 5th. But I like that stretch better. That's more comfortable to me because my right hand doesn't have to change strings. But that's using a 7th with notes that aren't in the scale to arrive at a destination, and that sounds really cool when you're doing stuff like this. All right, another thing I want to talk about for a minute that I did not do in the performance, but it's something in Blackbird that Paul McCartney does that sounds really cool, and that's when you take a minor and turn it to major, and what happens is you end up with this little chromatic thing. It's really interesting. It's like if I start with the E minor, then I just take that first finger down a half step, it turns it to a major chord, E flat major, then you can turn that to minor, and then D major, to D minor, to D flat major, to D flat minor, to major. And it's like you're crawling, and what's happening is you're getting this chromatic run down the melody, and the bass line's going down well as well. And it doesn't necessarily sound good doing it everywhere. You just have to kind of find where you like it. Like if you're going, I'm not sure I liked that one. But kind of play around with all those different shapes until something sounds good to your ear. And then what you can do is you can do what I did in the performance, and you can add some finger picking in there. I'm not so sure that that sounds really classical. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, and he uses a lot of Travis picking, and it sounds kind of cool. But either way, it still is really developing your finger picking style and your chord knowledge of important notes. So let me go over Travis picking with you real quick. Find a spot somewhere in a shape that's comfortable to you, and that's all you really need. Because what we're going to be doing is something that sounds like this. Now the cool thing about the one that I used here is that the two middle strings right here, which I'm kind of letting ring through all the chords, are the D and the G. And those are two foundational notes in a G chord and in the scale or the key of G. So when I'm going through all of my chords, it sounds good. It's kind of a drone or a pedal point note, they might call that. But it sounds good over every one of the chords that I'm playing. But it's the rhythm that really gives Travis picking its character. And it's really, it sounds amazing. Sometimes when someone's Travis picking, it sounds like there's two guitarists playing. You hear bass notes going back and forth. And then you're hearing a guitar high notes sounding like a melody, and it sounds really interesting. But it's really, once you get the rhythm down and you get the muscle memory, it just will start taking over and become natural. And I don't think it'll take anyone too long if you think about the rhythm first. And the rhythm goes like this: 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. And one thing I do is I pick a chord like this D major right here. You've got the two outside notes, the most important notes that I've been talking about. And then you've got two middle notes. That's the D and the G that are ringing. So I like to think of the 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and like this. Outside is 1, and then I go 2 and middle. Outside, middle, 1, 2, and outside, middle, 1, 2, and you might want to just go through some of the progression just doing that. Outside, middle, 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. Then the next one is to go outside together, middle, and then outside. But instead of together, you're playing the thumb first and the highest note with my middle finger. I use my thumb and my middle finger here. And when I do the middle or the insides, I do thumb and first finger. So your thumb is constantly going back and forth, and it's keeping a rhythm, and it's usually on the downbeat, which really drives that bass home. So you've got outside, middle, outside. So outside, middle, outside. Outside, middle, outside, 4. Outside, middle, outside, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And then the last one, you could probably guess. It's the middle again, same exact way, 4 and. So you go outside, middle, outside, middle, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and outside, middle, outside, middle, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now just kind of move around doing that, and you're going to probably have to adjust your fingers a little bit because you will bump into them sometimes and hit a dead note like and make mistakes like that, but no worries, just kind of readjust. Also, you'll notice that you're using your little finger differently than you might on other chords if you've already started playing guitar. And you might notice that you're going to have to, get a little blister to build up a callus right there, but it's so worth it. So start with outside, middle, outside, middle, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and outside, middle, outside, middle, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and just slowly speed up. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speed up quickly. But it's weird because it sounds so much different when you speed it up than it does slow. But if you do that while you're watching TV or something and just keep practicing this, it'll come to you pretty quick. Outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that's Travis picking. So let's go through my whole performance real quick so you can see what I do, and then you can take it from there and run. But basically I'm playing G, A minor, B minor, C, and then that 7th stretch to D, and then E minor, F sharp minor, G, stretch, G, to kind of really bring home that cadence. And then I go back down to F sharp minor, E minor, D major, C, and then B minor, A major, that really cool Paul McCartney trick there that he probably got from Bach, A minor, and then that D7 G. Then I go up to the G up here on the 10th fret and I start doing Travis picking. F sharp minor, E minor, D. Then I do this. That just sounds so classical to me. Then I go back up here to the G and I do the Travis picking, but I do it a little faster. I go. And if you notice with the rhythm, I'm going outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of like cut time. And then I just go. Slide up to D and repeat that. Repeat that slide one more time. And then and that time I did a half, like a cut time, and then a full on that awesome A. Then A minor, G. Do a harmonic on the 12th fret. And basically what a harmonic is instead of pushing down to fret the notes, you're just leaving your finger dangling on them, just touching them enough that it stops the fretted note from sounding, and instead you get all the overtones, so it gives it that bell chime kind of feeling. You can, on an acoustic and with my action, I can actually leave my finger laying there, but some guitars you might, or at different frets, you might want to hold it there, pick, and then take your finger off right away. But here on the 12th fret, that's a G chord. So it's a real nice way to end it right there. All right, so that's something for you to really chew on and fake your way through classical guitar. Classical guitarists spend years and years and decades on technique, and by no means are you going to do this and become a famous classical guitarist right away without putting that time in. But as you can see, it really, gives you a good emulation of a classical guitar sound. And it's musical. It's going to increase your ability to know what the important notes are. If you're playing in a band with 2 guitars, it's nice sometimes for the guitars to play different things. If someone's playing a full G and another guitarist is playing a full G, even if it's in a different place on the guitar, those notes are going to clash sometimes. So if one's playing a full chord and somebody else is just playing the 2 important notes, it can kind of give it a nice blend when you're playing. It's also, this exercise, or this video will hopefully give you some practice with your Travis picking. When you're watching TV, just sit there and think outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, outside, middle, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and before you know it, you'll have it down. But any multi-purpose guitarist needs to have a little bit of classical guitar in their toolbox. It all comes down, once again, playing the right notes with emotion. And remember, if it sounds cool, it is cool. Thanks for watching my next video. I'm Mike Andrews, Swiss Army Guitar.